Our baby boy entered our lives just a few months ago, and since then, life has been a whirlwind of sleepless nights, soft coos, and endless adjustments. Nothing could have prepared me for the intensity of love I would feel for him, and the simultaneous exhaustion that comes with every tiny need and cry. Despite the challenges of adjusting to life with a newborn, I'd believed that my husband and I were navigating it together. I never thought he'd feel anything other than joy and love for our new family. But 2 days ago, that illusion shattered. Out of nowhere, he asked for a paternity test. My heart dropped, and I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. He assured me it wasn't because he suspected me of infidelity, and that he only wanted peace of mind. He explained it as a lingering doubt he had, one he wished he could put to rest by just being sure. He claimed it would be better for him to address it now, before it became something bigger. He even rationalized it as a matter of preventing any possibility of resentment in the future, of unknowingly raising a child who might not be his. But in my heart, it felt like nothing short of betrayal. In that moment, I could barely respond. I felt stunned, heartbroken, and insulted all at once. We had always trusted each other implicitly, and this felt like a violation of that trust. The intimacy we shared seemed tainted by doubt, by questions I hadn't even known were lurking in his mind. I wanted to ask him if he thought I was the kind of person who could betray him, if he thought my loyalty and love could be so easily discarded. But before I could even process the pain of his request, he began citing incidents, little moments that, in his mind, apparently fed his concerns. He mentioned how he'd felt suspicious of my extended stay with my mother while I was pregnant, implying that perhaps I'd kept him out of the loop for reasons he couldn't quite put his finger on. Then he brought up a time when I'd seemed distant, saying he wondered if there was someone else on my mind. These accusations stung like knives, each one feeling like a wound being reopened, and I couldn't believe this was the same man I'd promised my life to, the father of my child. I felt like my world was collapsing around me. The hurt and shock were overwhelming. I raised my voice, shouted at him, asking how he could believe I'd do something so hurtful. I couldn't hold back the anger and tears that came rushing forward. In a blur, I grabbed my coat and left the house, needing air, needing space to clear my mind. I wandered aimlessly for what felt like hours, every step weighed down by the thought of the life we'd built and the baby we'd just brought into the world. By the next morning, my emotions were still raw, but I was exhausted, drained from replaying the scene over and over in my head. How had we reached this point? How could the man I loved doubt my faithfulness, even for a moment? I couldn't bring myself to talk to him, couldn't look him in the eye. I found myself giving him the silent treatment, retreating into the world I shared with our baby, trying to find some semblance of comfort in those small moments of bonding with our child. But later that night, he confronted me, demanding to know why I was shutting him out. His tone was angry, defensive, and it felt as if we were standing on two different sides of a vast chasm. We ended up in yet another argument, this one even more heated than before. He accused me of blowing things out of proportion, of not understanding his need for reassurance. I told him that his request for a paternity test was an accusation in disguise, no matter how he tried to dress it up. I pointed out how his doubts had cut through everything I thought we had, leaving me feeling like a stranger in my own marriage. There was no resolution that night, just a bitter silence hanging between us. Now 2 days have passed, and I feel lost in a sea of doubt and confusion. Our conversations feel tainted by the weight of his suspicions, and the warmth that once defined our relationship seems to have drained away. This is the first real conflict we've had, the first time I've felt like our marriage could be in jeopardy. The thought terrifies me, especially now, with a baby involved. I love him deeply, and the idea of our family unraveling feels too painful to bear. But at the same time, I don't know how to bridge this divide between us, how to overcome the hurt that has seeped into every corner of our relationship. Part of me wonders if this is some kind of postpartum anxiety for him, a reaction to the overwhelming responsibility of fatherhood. But no matter how I try to rationalize it, his request feels like a betrayal of trust. I've been so vulnerable during these months, and the last thing I expected was to feel attacked or questioned. It's as though he's placed a seed of doubt in the foundation of our marriage, one that I'm afraid will grow into something that neither of us can control. In quiet moments, I find myself looking at our baby boy, hoping to find some sense of comfort in his innocent face. He has my husband's eyes, his soft expression, and yet here we are, in the middle of a rift I hadn't seen coming. I can't bear the thought of him growing up in a family fractured by mistrust. I keep replaying my husband's words, trying to make sense of them, hoping there's some hidden meaning that doesn't hurt so deeply. But despite my love for him, I feel resentment growing within me. This isn't a feeling I'm accustomed to, it's foreign and uncomfortable, and it scares me. I don't want to resent the man I married, the father of my child, but it feels as if his doubts have put up a wall between us that I don't know how to break down. I feel the weight of it every time I look at him, every time he's in the room, a reminder that the person I thought I knew could question the very core of our bond. I've tried to think about what I would say to him if I could find the words. I want to tell him how much his request has hurt me, how it's shaken the foundation of trust one thought we'd built over the years. I want him to understand that his need for peace of mind comes at the cost of mine, that his doubts feel like a scar that won't easily heal. But at the same time, I know that saying these things might push him further away, might deepen the divide that's already widened between us. I feel torn between trying to move forward, to find some way to heal this wound, and the fear that nothing I say will change the way he feels. I don't want to live in a marriage where I'm constantly looking over my shoulder, wondering if he still harbors doubts. I don't want our son to grow up in a home filled with tension and mistrust. But I don't know how to bridge this gap, how to return to the sense of security and love that we once shared. As the days go by, I find myself hoping for a resolution, a way to rebuild the trust that has been shattered. I know that forgiveness won't come easily, that it will take time for me to feel whole again. But at the heart of it all, I still love him, and I know that he loves me. I just hope that love is enough to bring us back together, to heal the wounds that have been inflicted. In my darkest moments, I fear that this might be the beginning of the end, that our marriage has been irrevocably damaged by this one request. But a small part of me holds on to hope, a fragile hope that maybe, just maybe, we can find a way through this.